All right, welcome everybody to our October 18th Committee of the Whole meeting. We are meeting tonight to review some upcoming contracts and policy items that we will have in our upcoming meetings. This is a meeting where we just review items. There is no action tonight. We are just being introduced to some of the upcoming things and getting a chance to ask questions and get more information. We will go ahead and get started with this meeting, starting with roll call. Director Decker.
I'm here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Director Sproul.
Here.
And Director Zavala.
Here.
And I am also here. We are all in attendance. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Snell to get us started with our committee meeting.
Thank you, Director Barros. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this smoky evening here today. I have a few items in the superintendent report. The first is the air quality. Because of the local fires, we did have to restrict some of our events this afternoon, move things indoors as the air quality continued to worsen throughout the day. So that's something that we'll continue to monitor, hoping that the weather kind of turns towards the end of the week and provide some relief for the county, as a lot of people are going through some pretty challenging situations right now. So we also have just an update on the employee investigation. I know that we are working and have shared with you that we're working with Clark County Sheriff's Department. And we are looking, we have a meeting tomorrow with them to just check in and looking to do another update to the community. It's been about a week since our first update, and some things have happened in between then. So just giving you a heads up on that. And then finally, next week, we have a study session and we have several important topics. One is around culture and climate goals, and we have our student advisory reps. We're hoping that as many of them as possible can join the Zoom and say hello and let you know what school they're representing. And on the student learning front, we'll be looking at fall formative assessment data. So giving you a snapshot of how our students are doing this fall through a measure, recognizing that there's a lot of ways that we can assess their progress. And then finally, under the resources goal and equity lens, looking at our multilingual program and providing an update to you on that, and also some opportunities to weigh in, provide feedback and input. So some important topics coming up, and just want to cue you and our audience, if they're interested, to stay tuned to this study session on October 25th. And with that, we will stop sharing this and I'll pull up the agenda and we can walk through some of the November agenda items that we have proposed. And as Director Barros has shared, we are previewing these items tonight, answering any questions potentially in the moment, but also gathering questions and bringing responses back to the Board of Directors prior to the meeting in November, which I believe is on November 8th this year. Brett, do you want to start walking through contracts? Are you ready to do that?
Absolutely. No problem. So it looks like we're on the Skyview one at the bottom now. If we go to the number one, we'll just march through them sequentially here. The first recommendation we have is that you consider approving a purchase agreement with iUrban Teen at your November meeting, as Jeff mentioned. This would be the second year of a contract that we've had with iUrban Team. We had a competitive process to partner with various agencies last year, this time. And iUrban Team was selected to lead this VPS graduate intern program. As you've read in the recommendation, they're working with our recent graduates to engage and support their journey towards a possible pathway in education. We're also bringing them onto our campuses to support existing students in kind of that internship mentor role. I think it was a little bit slow starting, but according to Mark Reith, we're getting some traction on the program, and we're hoping that we're going to see some good candidates here in a few years as a result of the investments. This particular program is funded out of our general fund, specifically ESSER funds that we've had available the last couple of years. And the amount for the second year is $138,541 plus Washington State sales tax. Any questions on that renewal of the iUrban Teen partnership?
No questions, but that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we've got a couple of those partnerships now. We have one with PIC as well, where we're trying to not only kind of cultivate new leads and recruits for hard to fill positions and everything, but also realizing that we haven't historically recruited well into underrepresented populations. And so I think this is one of multiple pathways we're trying to forge into that kind of diversity, towards that diversity goal.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions on iUrban Teen, we'll move on to a pretty routine one that we've had in place for many years. It's the renewal of intergovernmental agreement number 2022-048 with ESD 112 for printing services. We've had a positive partnership with them, as I mentioned, for several years. It does fluctuate year to year, but we're estimating to spend up to about $450,000 this year. And that would be comprised of both general and ASB funds as they have printing projects to access this particular contract. So any questions on the ESD printing contract? Right, we'll move on to our last general fund item, which is a recommendation to approve a contract with Valbrun Consulting Group. Again, this would be the second year of a partnership with Valbrun. Like the iUrban Teen, they're funded out of our general funds, specifically the ESSER grants that we've been benefiting from. This particular partnership allows us to have new teachers and administrators work on the IDI assessment tool, and then have some coaching and plan development with the experts from Valbrun Consulting. The estimate for the second year of this contract is $288,000. Questions on the Valbrun partnership continuation? All right, then we'll move on to our last four are all related to the Capital Projects Fund or Bond Fund, if I don't specifically mention it as we go through. The first one is a purchase agreement number 2022-051 relating to a parking lot expansion at Ogden Elementary. This particular piece of that project is the engineering firm that will lead us through that process. They'll provide the engineering, permitting, surveying, and construction administration services portion of what will be a complex project. The funding source, as I mentioned, is capital projects or bond. The amount would be $170,400 for this. And I can tell you from working with that community on a regular basis over the last couple of years, that will be a welcome improvement, and the city of Vancouver will be very happy to have the backlog of cars that are now moving out onto the surface streets accommodated within the school property. So we think we have a good plan. We work closely with building administration, and so this would be the first step towards that goal of having it ready by the beginning of next school year. Questions on the I don't know if I mentioned the vendor. I'm sorry. It's Harper, Huff, Peterson, and Regalis, commonly known to us as HHPR. Questions on that launching of that project? All right, we'll move on to a recommendation to approve purchase agreement 2022-052 with Floor Solutions for carpet at Ruth Bader Ginsburg Elementary. So excited to be getting close to be thinking about that building accepting some carpet here in the next few months. That particular contract would be in the amount of $157,930 plus Washington State sales tax. Questions on RBG carpet? All right, staying with RBG investments, our next recommendation is purchase agreement number 2022-045 for high-speed internet network connectivity, and the selected vendor was Comcast. Comcast was the lowest of 4 responses that we had to a competitive process for this work. Again, the funding source will be our capital projects / bond fund. The amount for the first year, it's a multi-year agreement, but the full first year that we're asking you to approve is $46,800 plus Washington State sales tax. Right, hearing no questions on that. Our last recommendation is for a project that's already been completed, but as you've heard many times over the last few months, we would ask you to formally accept it as a completed project so that we can move through the procedural and regulatory final phases of this contract. This particular one is purchase agreement number 2021-073, and it was for recarpeting project at Skyview High School. The vendor that worked on that was the Beresford Company, and the final amount was $490,416 plus Washington State sales tax. Any questions on the completion of the Skyview carpet project? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Director Barros, I'll move to policy. Okay. Marilee, are you able to walk us through this?
Yes, there's just one policy for the board consideration this evening, and that's policy 6540. The title is School District Responsibility for Privately Owned Property, and the purpose of the proposed policy change is to align the policy language with the collective bargaining language. Many of the district's collective bargaining agreements contain provisions about how staff will be reimbursed when private property is damaged, and we wanted to make sure that the two documents are aligned. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
It looked good. After I got through all the where the lines and the dots and everything went, but it looked great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marilee. Director Barros, I think that's all that we have, at least at this point, for the agenda in November. If there are other items that come on, we will share those with the board ahead of time as well. And if there's, go ahead.
Oh, when I last looked, there'd been a teaching and learning. Did that come off?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that there was a rationale behind any instructional materials, and
Gotcha.
they might have been able to prepare that for today, but I asked if there was urgency on it, and they said it could be on the December agenda. And so I just want to make sure that you have rationale supporting approval or changes. Yeah. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, with that, are there any other questions from board members or anything for our Board of Directors report? All right, with that, we are now going to, the board is going to recess to an executive session. The purpose is personnel, to discuss the performance of a public employee. There will be no action to follow, and we estimate that we will be in recess for approximately 30 minutes. At which point I will then come back and adjourn the meeting. With that, we are recessed. Thank you all. All right, we are back from our executive session. It is 6:24 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.